this is our second class. I didn't expect to have to do it a second time, but I'm happy to do it. I'm honored. But I will be telling the same jokes that I told before, so I'm going to try to recreate it as much as I possibly can. So, my name is Uni Gant. I'm the owner of Home Oniship Art Deco. Let's see. I am partnered with Amazon and Etsy, and I'm in talks and prayers with the third partner. I've been in business for 6 years now. And I make everything that I sell. So I have studied art in London, Paris, and all of Italy. And when I say studied, I took a train and I went to the sites and I looked at the paintings in person, to look at the strokes, to look at the carvings, because I wanted to see it in person and not from a portrait on the internet. That's just always been a dream of mine, and I'm able to do it now, so I do. Artist, I don't really like being called that. I think every artist kind of struggles with that term, but it's just kind of convenient. It's good for the paperwork and it helps people understand what it is that you do, but artist is such a broad term. And because I got started with construction. I was my grandfather's apprentice who was a contractor, and he taught me tiling, carving, woodworking, and all these different things. So I actually started with remodeling homes, doing the things around the house, and that's where the deco comes in Art Deco. So that's a tribute to my grandfather, who I'll always give an honorable mention, because I think he gave me a legacy. I think I inherited something that is invaluable, just the ability to make my own products from my own business. And I don't even know if he knew that's what he was giving me at the time. It was just something to do after school. But it's just a testament of how you should be around children. You never know the impression that you will leave on them. Because did he ever think that I would grow up and turn this into a whole business, just spending those few hours with him after school? I don't think so. So think about that. I'm also a woman in tech, and that's how I met the lovely Candace. I was going to Zumba Tuesdays at the office, and she told me about this place, and I'm like, what? And I think I just kind of been here every day since then. You touch the handle, and you like her whole energy electrifies the place. So like, I love it here. And since I've been working with Candace, I've actually struggled with anxiety most of my life. Seeing therapists and doing the medication, trying to cope. But it hasn't been since I've been working with Candace that I've really been able to get a hold of the anxiety. So fitness unites us all. And it's so important for people to understand that it's not just about weight loss. Right. Weight loss is a happy accident, right? That's just a side effect. It's about that mental health. And when you feel good, you look good, and everything else, you grow from the inside out. So that's important to know and to keep in mind. So I always like to tell people that when it comes to fitness. Like, don't be asking me about weight loss. It ain't about that. It's about, accountability and balance and mental strength. So, yeah. As it relates to plants, I have a double bachelor's in biology and environmental science. That was the best botany degree that I can piece together from the Cleveland State University. And I studied plants on a molecular level for many years under the microscopes, extracting their cells and studying them that way. But it wasn't until I started just caring for plants just as they are that I really grew to love them, like truly love them, So that's my affinity for plants. It's really not the studies, it's just the time that I spent with them without studying them. So let's talk about plants then. So why are plants, what is the big deal about plants? So it's important for me that when you leave here, you leave with a different perspective about plants. The air that you breathe, all of your medicines and vaccines, all of your botanicals, creams, makeups, you can thank a plant for all of those things. If all of the trees and all of the plants burned down today, we would all die because they provide all of our oxygen. So it's really important to keep that in front of your mind and respect what we have and understand our place in the world as it relates to them. We are here to share this planet with the plants, and we serve each other. And it's part of your humanity, it's part of your own empathy to keep that in the fore of your mind. When it comes to climate change, when it comes to littering, when it comes to the way you think of a plant. Most of us think of plants as inanimate objects, but they are living and they're breathing and doing all of these wonderful things for us. And that's just the surface level. From a spiritual perspective, you know, some people believe that plants are like messengers from another realm. But I can do you one better. In the Quran and in the Bible, God says, if you want to understand me, study my creation. If you want to be guided by me, watch my signs. And you know, those ain't my words. You know, and it's such a simplistic message, but we just kind of take it for granted because we breathe and we don't think about where the air is coming from. We don't think about any of that. We don't even think about, remember to be grateful for being able to see and breathe and wake up every day. So these are things that plants are here to remind us of, and that's why they're called messengers from another realm. That's what, you know, some cultures will call them. They also, the dopamine. Let's talk about the dopamine levels that plants give us. Also because they're beautiful, that gives us the dopamine. But since we've been in the pandemic, people have been more isolated and going outside less, falling into depression, and people have been coping in different ways. Some people have been drinking more, doing drugs more, and a lot of people have been collecting plants, which is a very healthy, you know, way to cope, or addiction if you call that. I'm a plant addict, proud of it, that's fine. But it's deeper than, you know, just collecting or finding a new hobby. The plant gives off a dopamine naturally. So when you go outside, for example, say you're really upset about something and you always see in the movies, I need some air. Or you just been in the house all day, or you're in a bad mood. As soon as you go outside, you instantly feel different. And you may not think about it, like, oh, I just needed to get out of there and go for a walk. But that walk, on that walk, you're getting that dopamine from the air, from the soil, and that's all provided to you by plants. So if you have this in your house at all times, you know, you always have a dose of dopamine pumping into your space, you know. There is a meditation called earthing. And what it is that you take off your shoes and you just walk barefoot and come in contact with the earth, because there's like a negative charge in the earth, a positive charge into your body, and when they come together, you make a grounding effect. So when someone says, oh, I just need to get grounded, you know, that's actually a literal thing. This is all science. I'm not trying to sound, you know, this is actual science that you can Google later. But you know, I really took it to heart when I came across those scriptures about studying the creation. And I've just kind of made that my life's work. So that's the story there. And I like to learn more about these things all the time. The other door. Okay. So we talked about earthing, we talked about air purification. What's the benefit of having the plants in your house? It purifies the air naturally. There are formaldehydes and benzenes in the air that can be cancer causing. And the plants literally absorb those toxins so that you don't have to breathe them in. So they've given us a lot of benefits just having them in your house. Not even counting what it can do outside, obviously. And you know, it's beautiful decor, obviously. But it's more than that. It's a decor that actually means something. It's affirming to you. So when you think about what it's doing for you, who it's working for, this is the creation, right? And so living decor, it not only makes things beautiful, but it makes you feel better with the dopamine that it's pumping out. And if you just think about some of the things that it represents, it gives you an affirmation to help you in your own life. For example, gravity. Gravity is a force that travels at 9.8 meters per second. 9.8 meters is roughly the length of this room, right? So you have 9.8 meters per second of force of gravity circling the earth every second. Boom, boom, boom. It's pushing down on the earth, keeping everything grounded. And then you got something that's pushing the other way. Trees, plants, leaves, unbothered. So what I can take out of that is think about it. You have gone through all types of adversities in your life. You've had things go wrong, things meant to destroy you, things that you didn't think you would ever bounce back from, pushing down on you. And you've survived 100% of those experiences because you're just sitting here today, unbothered, alive, healthy, breathing, right? And I think when you look at your plants, you can be reminded of things like that. You can be reminded of rebirth when you see a new leaf. You can be reminded of the beauty of hydration when you see it come to life after it's been watered. You know, and it's because of you that this is happening. They're in your care. And speaking of care, I don't believe in coincidences, right? So from seed to store to the backseat of your car to your house, it was always meant to be with you. It was always meant to be purifying your air. It was always meant to be affirming you, being watered by you. So you have a symbiosis relationship with this plant from creation. You know what I mean? It's been entrusted to you just like your children have been entrusted to you. It's been entrusted to you just like a child has been entrusted in your care as an auntie or uncle. You know what I mean? And you have to honor that by first feeling honored that you were chosen, and then doing what it takes to make sure that you are good with that trust. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I know you guys understand that because that's why you're here today. You want to learn about these plants. And it's a really beautiful thing because you don't have to know about a plant. You don't have to be a green thumb, quote unquote, in order to be a good plant parent. All of us have held a baby at one time in our lives, whether it's our own baby, our niece or nephew. And at that time, the very first time you did it, you didn't know anything about babies. You didn't know how to change a diaper or none of that, but you knew you loved that baby and you would do anything it takes to protect them and to make them feel loved. And that's all you need. That's your human intuition. And that's the same intuition that brought you here to learn about plants. Make sense? All right. So, now that we know about the who, the why, the what, we can go into the care of the plant with a whole renewed perspective, hopefully. You know, this is a living thing, and I like to call them babies. I'm going to be making a lot of examples and analogies to babies, so roll with me. All right, so let's get into watering. Watering is the #1 killer of plants, is overwatering the plant. You know that you've overwatered the plant not by how much water you're giving it, but the frequency in which you water it. Okay, so some people think that they have to water the plant every day, every week, and that's just not so. You water the plant when it needs water, and that's going to be different for every plant because every plant, house plant, is living in a different environment, right? If your house is 55 degrees most of the year, then you're probably going to need less water because the moisture is being retained because the temperatures are lower in your house. If you live in Florida and you've got all the windows open and no air conditioner, maybe you're going to need more water. So even if we have the same plant, I can't tell both people to make sure you water your plant on the 3rd Tuesday. I mean, because it's just not logical. And then they have these apps that are telling you this, you need to water this plant every 10 days, and it's just a lie because there's no way you can know when a plant needs the water based on the type of plant that it is. It's based on the environment that the plant is living in. So instead of watering your plant every day or every week or even on a schedule, check the plant. So you want to stick your finger in all the way down to the 2nd digit, right? And if the dirt sticks to your finger, it does not need water. This is moisture. It's good. If the dirt crumbles, you can feel the dryness to your 2nd, digit, and it's not sticking to your finger, then go ahead and water it. What happens when a plant is overwatered? What's actually the meaning of overwatering is that the plant is actually drowning, literally. So the roots are floating in water. They're unable to breathe because it is being overwatered. Soil is supposed to have air pockets so that the excess water can be released, but if you're constantly watering it, it's not getting a chance to breathe. So it's literally, because it's trying to survive. And when it's doing that, it's not purifying air, it's not doing any of that because it has to prioritize trying to survive. So when it's constantly underwater, even though it's not sitting water in it, but because it's watered and it's not being allowed to dry out sufficiently, the roots are rotting. The way you can prevent this, if you can catch it early before they completely rot, is you have to do an emergency repot. You have to get it out of that wet soil and let it dry out in some dry soil. So that's one remedy for that, but prevention is worth a pound of cure. Don't overwater your plants. Check the soil first and then water them. When I say volume versus frequency, it's really important that the plant gets a good soak at least once a month. So you have these cute little waterers and you want to give it a little sip, and that's sufficient. But at least once a month, one of those waterings should be a really deep water. Small plants like this, you can just put them in the sink and let the water, the sprayer run over them until the water runs out at the bottom. I personally put especially my larger plants, in the shower and let them get a good soak. Let them sit in the shower, once the water is off so they can drain fully, and then I put them back in their spots. It's also important to make sure that the plant has drainage hose in the bottom so that the excess water can come out, because just like you relieve excess water, the plant also has to do the same. So if it doesn't have drainage holes, it's going to drown again because you're not letting the excess water out. So there's a lot of pots that don't have drainage holes, and those are meant to be decorative pots. You're supposed to put the liner pot inside of it and then take, in and out to water it. So that's the other thing about that. It's not a good idea to plant it directly into the decorative pot. That's meant to be a vase. So we talked about drowning. Let's talk about, another way that you can drown the plant is if the pot is too big for the plant. So it's really important that the pot is proportional to the plant size. If the pot is too big for a small plant, that pot is holding excess water. Even with the running out of the bottom, this little plant has all this water to, surrounding it, and it will drown that way. It's kind of like putting a newborn baby in a regular sized bathtub. Like, it doesn't work. So you need a pot proportional to the plant size to prevent that as well. So what happens a lot of times is that you have a plant and you find this pot and you just want that pot. So you take the plant out and you put it in this big old pot, or you think it's time to repot it and you find this huge pot and now you drowned it. And that's how a lot of people think, oh, my plant must have went into shock. No, that pot was too big and you drowned it. So it's a difference. So if you want the pot, just take this existing pot and put it in there. Just sit it in there like that and let it go. Don't bother if it doesn't need to be bothered. Kind of like we put the baby bath inside the tub, same concept. So you don't want to drown your babies. Yes.
So if somebody did that and actually had a nice little pot and put like a small, and there's no holes in the bottom, so should that person? I'll let them know. What do you think they should do?
So it's not the end of the world though if you don't have a drainage hole. Let's be clear on that. If you don't have a drainage hole, it means that you have to water that plant a lot less. Okay. So you have to water it to the point where it's not going to run out at the bottom. So you have to give it you have to sip feed that plant. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So that plant will probably need to be watered a little bit more frequently because you're not able to give it enough to soak, right? Because the excess water can't come out. So you would just be, just giving it a little bit of sip, just enough water to where it's not running out, but it's running out to the bottom. But, at the same time, it'd be best to take that plant out and put it in something with drainage.
They were creative. They put some rocks on the bottom.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, it's a really cute pot. It's really cute. I did see it. I saw it.
Well, if you can do a self-watering kind of a thing. I mean, there's remedies to this, right? A self-watering is when you bottom water a plant, basically. So even if it has drainage holes, this is a really good thing to do with the smaller plants. You can do it with all the plants, and a lot of plants prefer it. So what you do is you set it in a bowl full of water and just let it drink. And don't leave it in there more than 48, I don't know. It should drink what it needs within 45 minutes. Okay? And take it out that way. If it has a hole in the bottom, right? And what's great about that is that the plant only takes the amount of water that it needs. So it will never be overwatered if you bottom water a plant. Now, if you have a plant that doesn't have drainage holes, but you have the rocks, which is creating a barrier of drainage, right? If you just filled up, is this a glass pot? Can you see the rocks? If you just filled it up to the bucket.
I could ask her.
Okay.
I think it's glass. Ceramic, yeah.
If you just cover the rocks with water to the point where it's not touching the roots, then the roots will come down and kind of sip what it needs. Okay. But you have to be so precise about how much water you put in this pot. You know what I mean? And that's the key. You cannot be putting whole bottles of water in it. You can't sit in the shower. It can't handle that. Right. It can only take a sip. Okay. But if it's water within its reach, it'll reach down and get the water. And also you can do a string. This is another way to self-water a plant. You can put a string at the bottom of the soil and the other end of that string into some water, whether it's a cup outside of the pot or at the bottom of the pot, and that string will transport water to the plant. So that's something else to consider. So all is not lost. You just got to know the tricks, right? And that's why we're here. So you can save this plant and the pot. Just got to get a little creative.
Gotcha.
All right. So overwatering. Another sign of overwatering is mushy leaves. And this is something that you'll see in succulents. Succulents is generally a plant that has a leaf thicker than 2 millimeters. So your aloe vera plants. Snake plants are not technically considered succulents, but they are related to the succulent family because their leaves are a little bit thick. But they're actually a rhizomal plant, and what a rhizome is just a bulb. That's the scientific name for a bulb. Bulbs underneath the soil inside of a bulb. If you were to cut it, it would be like a potato. So it serves as like a camel's hump for the plant. You know how the camel can store its own water source? Plants that have bulbs, that bulb is their water source. So they need less water also. But if you have a plant like that and the leaves are getting mushy, like they get in a really dark green and turn translucent, and you cut it or you push it and it just folds in, it's getting overwatered. So as a rule of thumb, succulents don't need a lot of water because what makes them succulent is that they are hydrated with water. It's water that's making them so fleshy and thick. But if they get overwatered, they'll start to burst. So think about that with your aloes and snake plants and all of those.
Yeah. Aloe's gone.
Yellowing leaves is also a sign of overwatering, but it's also a sign of a dying plant. So the reason why it's turning yellow is actually is really a sign of health of the overall plant, because what's happening is the plant is saying, okay, we have too much water, we need to get rid of it. One of you are going to take one for the team, and they send all that excess water to one leaf, so you get to lose one leaf instead of the whole plant. But just don't do it so much that you start losing multiple leaves. So once you learn, oh my goodness, I overwatered this one, now what am I going to do differently? It's giving you a warning. So it's not the end of the world to lose one leaf. It's actually a sign of health. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I have one like that where it's yellow leaves, but it's also growing bright green ones too. So I didn't know what was wrong with it.
Rebirth.
Okay.
So the bright green ones are the babies. Those are the new leaves coming in. So you lose one, and that's the cycle of life too. You got to remember that this is a living thing, and the plant cells are very similar to our hair, nail, and skin cells. And you lose how much hair every time you wash your hair. You lose how much skin every time you take a shower. How many nails have you broken? It's because new ones are coming in. So you're not gonna, the older leaves are gonna die naturally. So we have to make peace with that too. Just because you lost a leaf doesn't mean that it's going bad. Now I wish Candace was here to hear that, because she's like, I got a yellow leaf. What's going on? But and also the beauty and the majesty of plants is that they follow the seasons. Even though it's in a pot, it's not connected to the earth, they still know it's fall. And they will shed their old leaves because of that too. And I just think that that's just like magical to me, that it knows. So don't be alarmed when you have a yellow leaf. You've either overwatered it or it was time for it to pass, and a new one is right behind it. So let it affirm you that what is lost will be replaced. God closes the door, he opens the window, or a whole room for you, right? So pay attention to your plants and the signs that it's trying to give you. Underwatering plants. Now, when we talked about the sipping of the plant, you have to stay on top of that so that it can still kind of get what it needs without drowning. But one of the major signs of a plant being underwatered is the brown tips at the end of the leaves. We all have them, right? And what's happening there is, if you think about the circulatory system in the human body, a leaf or a plant has a very similar circulatory system. Ours is filled with blood, theirs is filled with water. If it's not getting enough water, it takes and prioritizes the water that it has. Same thing happens in the human body. If your body is under duress, you're Mount Everest, getting frostbite, and your body is trying to keep you alive, it's going to either keep your heart beating or keep your whole body, blood circulating to your whole body. It's not going to do that. It only has enough to keep your heart beating, so your fingertips are going to frostbite because that blood is trying to keep your organs going. So it sacrifices your extremities. Same thing is happening in the plant. It has to keep the roots alive. It has to keep the main artery alive, that main stem. So we're not going to worry about those leaves. We'll get it as far as it can go, but if it doesn't make it to the tips, it doesn't make it to the tips. So think frostbite analogy when you see those brown tips. And it means that you're not giving your plant enough water. Volume over frequency. Doesn't mean water them more often, it means water them more deeply. Deeply meaning make sure the water gets down to the soil. Put them in the shower, put them in the sink. Soak them, pour so much water in it that it's just like coming out of the bottom, because that's how you know it's gotten enough. And sometimes that's not always an indicator, because if the plant is completely dried out, or if it needs to be repotted and you pour water over it, that water will rush out anyway, because there's nothing holding it together. So that you can't always let that be an indicator. So it's so important to get your hands in the dirt and feel around and see what's going on in there. If you don't feel any soil because it's been consumed, it's time to repot it. It's not holding any water at this point. So don't get too comfortable with, get intimate with your plants. These are your babies, check their diaper, we all have to get dirty, right?
I got to save my plants.
Oh boy. So, drooping and curling leaves is also another sign of underwatering or overwatering. A Dieffenbachia, so it depends on the type of plants that you have. We were talking about a Dieffenbachia before the class started. Those plants hate to be overwatered, and they get really dramatic when they have too much water. They yellow, before their leaves even yellow, and they do all the normal stuff, they just like, look what you did. Like, they just it's so dramatic. It's like, what's wrong with you? They just like, I'm sick, so. These claims. And peace lily. If peace lily needs water, she literally plays dead. Like, you're like, what? Is it dead? No. Water it, and by the hour it'll be like nothing happened. She just be. So you gotta know. You gotta know your plant. So curling leaves is also another sign of dehydration, and that happens a lot in summer, a lot with trailing plants like the pothos. If the leaves start to curl, and droop, obviously it needs water. So your plants are talking to you, they're screaming at you. You just gotta pay attention. Stop walking past them like they're not living. Look like, remember me? Yeah. They do so much for us. This is the least we can do for them, right? Hi. So, also, plants need humidity. Plants love humidity because if you have to think about where our plants come from. Most of our plants are not native to Northeast Ohio, right? They're coming from rainforests, they're coming from the tropics. So you want to try to recreate that environment for them. They're used to hot and sticky and wet, like a Florida environment. And a good way to stimulate that, you can obviously buy a humidifier, which is burning electricity and it costs money. It's really not necessary. I mean, you could get a spray bottle and spray it with water. Just spray the surrounding. Okay, I just filled this up. It's coming. It's coming. So, when you spray a plant like this, you're giving it humidity. So you're trying to recreate that environment for them. There's other ways that you can create more humidity in your house. Like you could dip your curtains in water and let them air dry. And then as it's air drying, that humidity is going out into the room. Obviously you could spray them. You could, if you have steam heat, that's even better. Plants love steam heat. You probably don't need to do any of this if you have steam heat. So just think about the idea of it is trying to stimulate their environments. When they're out in the wild, they get their water from the rain. So how do you stimulate a rain environment? Not just putting them in the shower, but giving them enough water that you think they would get from a good rain, right? So that's what I meant by volume over frequency. You want to do it, give them a lot of water, but less frequent. Never water a plant every day. So, okay. Google Lens. Everybody has a smartphone, and it can be used for more than social media. In Google, if you have the Google app, hopefully you do, because I Google everything that comes into my head. I couldn't live without Google. But in the title, in the search bar, there is a icon that looks like a camera. You click that icon, whatever you take a picture of, it'll recognize that photo and bring up the wiki for whatever it is. Use it for your plants. So when you go shopping for plants or you see a plant that you're thinking about taking home, Google Lens it first. Learn about it, learn the scientific name, learn what it likes, how much light it needs, how much water and humidity that it needs, and then really think about, is this something that I can provide for this plant? This plant needs a lot of light and I live in a basement apartment or whatever. You know what I mean? Is this something that I should take home? Because if you can't and it gets to your place and it dies, you've wasted money, you feel bad about yourself and all of these things, but that could have been prevented if you knew about the plant up front. So I'm really not a fan of people just buying plants because they're pretty. Because again, this is a living thing. All babies are cute, but we don't have babies because they're dolls, right? And we learn quickly that it's not a toy. So same thing with plants. So educate yourselves. We got this technology that's like NASA quality search engine. We should be using it. I don't want anybody leaving here calling their plants that flower thing or that thingamabob. I want you to call it by its name. This is a pothos, sometimes called devil's ivy, right? Because you Googled it. Nobody is born a genius. We all study. So, So we talked about regulating our plants and trying to recreate the tropical environment. We talked about identifying plants so you can know exactly what it needs, so you can know what you need to provide for it, and mentally prepare yourself to see if it's something you can do. It's just like adopting a puppy or a cat. Are you a cat person? I think puppies are really cute, but I don't think I would ever want a puppy. I don't want to walk it in the winter. I don't want to do none of that stuff. So I'm not going to buy a puppy. I respect it, but it ain't for me. And I just want you guys to be the same when it comes to plants. Some plants I don't even like. I'm the plant lady, right? I don't mess around with, I just started liking Dieffenbachias again. I don't like fiddle leaf figs at all. I will never again. You know what I mean? Because I know that about myself. And it's not fair for the plant for me to have it. And I don't like it, and I'm thinking it's gonna die and all of these things. So, you know, same thing goes for everybody. Respect the plants. Let somebody else who will take good care of it have it. All right. Solar power. So, light requirements for plants. Now, when you do, this is another way that the Google Lens comes in handy, because when you do shop for plants and they have that little placard inside the plant, it is not giving you a lot of information. It's got a little nickname on it. I like bright light, and I like, well, you know what? All plants like bright light. So they just lie to you. They're trying to sell you a plant, and they don't really care what happens once they get the money, right? So ignore that and go to the Google Lens so that you can learn about this plant. So all plants like bright light, and there are plants that can tolerate lower light. So when you look at those cards and it says, you know, I'm good for low light or whatever, what it means is I can tolerate low light, meaning that it won't kill me, but I would prefer brighter light. Now, direct light refers to being outside, but the scope of this class is indoor plants. So direct sunlight would be like for whatever place that you buy for around your house, outside. And if you take your indoor plants outside, it's important that you don't put them in direct light, because it's not getting that filter from the window, and their leaves can scorch from the direct light. So you want to find a shadier spot in your patio or garden to put your indoor plants when you take them outside, but we'll get back to that in a second. What is direct light? Direct light is the distance between the window. So from the window to 12 feet from the window is direct light. If you're in a part of your room that if you need to turn on the light to read, it's too dark for a plant. So no dark corners, no basements without windows, you know what I mean? But there is a loophole to that. There are plants that can tolerate low light. And if you just do a Google search, low light plants, you'll come up with ZZ plants, snake plants, pothos, and spider plants. That's a good starter pack for a person who's new to plants or who don't have a lot of light in their home. But I would recommend buying them large already, because even though they can tolerate low light, they won't grow in the low light. But if they're already big and they're already the size that you like it, they'll maintain what it is now in that low light. But if you want to grow it bigger, it needs to be closer to the window, within 12 feet of the window. Someplace in the room where the light shines that you don't need a light to read in that area. Okay, so, and as it relates to direct light, because of the window has a natural filter on it that filters the light from the sun. So even though you have a window right in the window, a plant right in the window, it won't get scorched from the sun like it would if it was right outside in the sun. So there's a difference there. So it is protected from the window, by the window. But if you take it outside, beware. You know, I've done that before. I've had some scorched leaves. They just turned, you know, have brown spots all over because they were just too direct into the sun. So they need to be under an umbrella, under the awning or something like that if you take them outside. And it's a good thing to take your plants outside. I have what's called a plant hospital that I do. If I have a plant that's struggling, I take it outside for the summer. And usually when I bring it in after the summer, it's back to normal, because plants are from the tropics. They grow wild outside. They're from the rainforest and all of these tropical environments. Potting them and bringing them inside is somewhat of a domestication. You know what I mean? That's not their natural habitat. And if they're struggling, it's because they aren't adapting to this new environment. So they need to go home. They need to have a vacation in their home. And so you take them outside so that they can get that. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If the plants are doing fine where they are, leave them alone. But if you have a plant that's struggling, before you throw it out or give up on it, let it sit outside for a bit and you'll be surprised. So, plant hospital, that's what I do. I have a little table on my patio that's full of struggling plants. So,
Quick question.
sure.
When you took them out on the patio,
Mhm.
did gnats come? How do you get rid of gnats?
Okay, so gnats is only a problem if it's in the house, right? So before you bring them in the house, there's a whole wash down process that you need to do. So you want to hose them down really well. You maybe with a little bit of soap in the water. Spray them with neem oil is a natural pesticide. So it stinks really bad, but it works. So those are some of the things that you want to do before you bring it back into the house. And if it still has a gnat problem, the gnats have made have left their larvae in the soil. So you're going to need to repot that soil to get rid of the gnats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't repot mine yet. I did the neem oil per your suggestion, and I should stop ordering. I haven't ordered them since I've been back here since your first class.
Is it doing well?
No gnats.
No gnats. Yeah, the neem oil really works. It's just smelly, but it works.
It stinks.
Where do you get it?
You can order it online. I really never really seen it in the store. Did you find it in the store?
Yeah.
I ordered some on Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon?
But yeah, I
Okay.
got it from, I don't know, I think it was Lowe's.
You found it at Lowe's?
Yeah.
Lowe's be having stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where you can get it from Lowe's. She found hers at Lowe's.
And I did get that other stuff, which I have to use too.
And what I also did when I brought mine in from outside, I kind of tried to segregate them for a little bit.
Oh yeah, so they don't
Put
get
them
right.
with your other plants.
That's a good point.
anymore Because the gnats will go.
Yeah.
So you put them in different rooms and different whatever.
So I'm going to repeat that for the live. If you have plants that you're bringing in from the house, kind of quarantine them from the plants that are already in the house, just in case they have aphids and gnats, so that they don't infect the other plants.
That's right.
But yeah, you would either repot it if it's a really bad problem, but before you bring it in, hose it down. I brought in a plant from outside one time, and I hung it up and everything. It was smelling so fresh, and I kept hearing chirping. Like, and I'm like, am I crazy? It would do it like every time I would leave the room. So I was like, oh no. Oh my God, I was about to throw it out the window. I was so scared, but I just grabbed it and ran it outside real fast. I was screaming the whole time, and it was all the way upstairs. I had to go all the way downstairs with this plant chirping. So it was like a cricket in the So yeah, you gotta be careful.
How did it finally leave? Or how do you know it finally left?
I shook it, I turned it upside down and shook it outside. I hosed it down. It didn't survive that. And then I brought it back in the house. So I was just like, dang, I just neglected the whole wash down process. I just thought it was good. They can hide. So lesson learned. Yeah, do it. You have to re-domesticate your plants before you bring them back in the house. So.
I repotted all my plants the wrong way and put them on the porch, and now they're on the gnats.
Oh, well, it's not the worst thing in the world, honestly. Gnats are only attracted to living things, so you just clean it. And the neem oil won't hurt the plant, it'll only hurt the gnats. I don't believe in using chemicals or pesticides or anything like that. The neem oil is natural. It's not going to harm you or your plants or pets.
Okay.
So yeah, but it smells really bad. But like I said, it's going to work. And then bring them in the house, hose them off real good.
All of them don't. I mean, it's not automatic that it'll be gnats in there because you bring them. I've had some that come in, and then I've used those sticky.
Oh, I saw those.
The
things,
sticky traps?
the yellow sticky traps, and I stick it in there. And if it's gnats in there, it'll get stuck to the thing. So I stick it in there just to check if it has gnats or not. Because sometimes they don't always.
Right, exactly. You don't always have to have gnats. That's true. Like I had crickets, so it could be a whole lot. All right, so grow lights. If you don't have a lot of light in your house, I know we talked about this the last time. If you don't have a lot of lighting in your house, you can use a grow light. Miracle Grow actually makes a light bulb that you can replace all of your lights with. So you don't even have to spend a lot of money. It's the price of a regular light bulb. And a lot of plants also respond well to fluorescent lighting like this if you just put the plant right beneath it. But it's the only thing that I would suggest when using a grow light is to try to stimulate the day and night cycle, because plants are also governed by day and night like we are. And at night it changes the way that it responds to the air. So for example, a snake plant breathes in carbon dioxide all day long, and as soon as it's night, it puffs out straight oxygen. So if it doesn't know that it's night, or you throw that cycle off, I'm afraid that it may not be able to do what it was intended to do. So just try to stimulate nature if you're going to be using grow lights. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. So let's talk about propagation. Propagation is a fancy way of saying making more plants out of a mother plant. So separating a plant to make more plants. It's really important to use your Googles before you propagate a plant, because all plants are propagated differently. And a lot of people assume that you can just cut a leaf off and put it in some water and it'll grow. And that's not the case. It is with some plants, it's not the case with others. And it's really offensive to go through life not knowing that, because you might be asking a plant person like myself, hey, let me get a piece of that, and I'm going to get really offended because, first of all,
Kill your pizza.
right? That's not how you do it. And if you take a leaf off my plant, it's not going to be symmetrical anymore, right? And you might hurt it. Like, get out of here. So, and I've seen memes on the internet of people making jokes about stealing from the store. Like they pinching plants in the plant store and taking them home. And it's like, that's stealing. If you get caught doing that, you're going to get nailed. You might get prosecuted. And then it wasn't even going to root anyway. So like, you just went to jail for nothing. Like, this is not even a albino monstera. Those are worth at least $250 a leaf. You're not even stealing that. You pitching off at the Home Depot. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying education is fundamental. So I'm going to give you an example of how to propagate. So this is a devil's ivy of pothos, and this is considered a trailing plant. And what most trailing plants have in common are these little nodes. You see these little nodes on the side of plants? That's called an aerial root. So in the wild, aerial roots help these plants to climb. So they're usually at the bottom of the jungle, and they're like climbing up trees. And those help them to wind around the trees. And also, if you put those roots in water, they start to root, and you can start a new plant from that. So those aerial roots are not only there to help them climb, but they also reach out looking for more water sources in nature. So you'll see like a monstera deliciosa in nature, and it has all these long cables coming from it. They're like little tentacles sending out looking for water sources in the jungle. So that's what these are on a smaller scale. So when you want to propagate to make a new plant, you find the node and you have to cut underneath the node. So the node has to be included in your cut. So I'm going to cut right below it like that with the nodes attached. And then you just put it in water and wait for it to root. It'll take about 6 weeks, roughly. And you just find a nice little vase, put it in a shiny, sunny area, and just let it be. It's such a beautiful thing to watch, and you get really excited. It's like, is it gonna root like every 5 minutes? But it takes a few weeks. So just try to make it pretty so that you can deal with it. Now, pop quiz. Once it's rooted, do I want to plant it in this pot or this pot?
The smaller one.
Which one?
The smaller one.
Okay, why?
Because it'll drown.
If what?
If it's in the bigger pot.
It'll get too much water.
Got too much space.
It will get too much water in a bigger one. Okay, jungle up. Hey, everybody. Okay, right. Here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So, conversely, you banging and you gotta have this pot and you don't really care what it takes to get it, right? You got this pot,
I have that.
right? So you got your pot, it came in the mail, and then you go out and you find a plant to get it, but the math ain't mathing, right? So what's your first instinct?
Split the plant.
No, you grab your phone and how Oniship is a I get that email a lot. A lot of hate mail. Like, the thing is that it can't even play, it's too small. Okay, well,
I have a question.
I don't know if you meant to send that to your math teacher, but go ahead.
So the brown skin girl at the bottom is the hole, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Do you just put the water in? Because like the hole is bigger, but maybe not.
Well, they're handmade, so they're not all going to be the same.
So will the dirt just fall through? The hole's kind of big, or once you put, you just pack it in there?
Yeah, well, it's just meant for the water to come through. It's just like any other pot. The dirt doesn't fall through the holes.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit of dirt, but
Okay.
it's just meant for the water to come out.
Okay. It just seemed bigger than the other ones I've seen, so I was like, I just
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. And again, like we said, you want to have air pockets in your soil so that the excess water can come out. It's just like if you sit into a tub of water and you don't let the water drain out, what happens to your skin? It starts to get weakened and soft, and the same thing will happen to a plant, and it will die. You will come back maybe, but your skin, your skin, won't be so great. It'll be really clammy. So let's talk about this.
So is that too much plant in that pot?
This is too much plant for this pot.
No, even for the pot it's in, is that too much plant? Okay.
No,
I'm
but
a plant killer, so.
the thing of it is that all is not lost. I think people see the visual and they just get really upset because I don't know, they don't think that you can separate a plant. So when propagation is the science of separating a plant, whether you're cutting a node off of it or you taking a larger plant to make smaller ones. And I'm just going to show you how to do that. All is not lost. In fact, you bought a plant that can get you 3 brown skin girls. Right? So look, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, and you can combine these. I can put these all back in the same pot, or I can put 3 in one pot. You know what I mean? You have options. Other than, just, I don't know what happens to people when they see that visual, but they really do freak out. Like, this thing is not as big as I thought it was going to be, and and you could have bought all of my pots with one plant and had enough. So I'm going to use this example to show you how to repot, right? So you want to set, this smells so good. It's like sage.
What is
Well,
that?
This is a peperomia. This is in that family.
Oh, it's not your like, oh.
This is a variegated one. They have different species.
Thicker.
Yeah, they have different species.
Stand like looking.
So when you repot a plant, you want to loosen up the soil so that you can liberate the roots. So it's important to just gently massage it to break it up. Don't tear them apart because this is their roots. This is like your hair. If somebody's braiding your hair and tearing it out, you're losing hair. And when you repot, you want to use some of the soil that it came with because it's like moving into a mansion, right? From your house. Say your husband hit the lotto and he said, I bought a mansion, take everything. Just bring the stuff that's on your back and leave everything. You're going to be smiling for 3 days until you're like, I don't have my baby's pictures, I don't have my passport, and then you're going to start to feel sad. Same thing with a plant. They don't want to go into shock and be without their passport. So use some of that original soil, and you can add new soil to this if you need to. If it's not enough, well, we have enough here, right? Or you can also, like I said, you can add other soil. If you have a bag of soil, you can add to the soil that you have in the original plant, but just make sure that some of it is in there because the plant wants to have a piece of home with them wherever they go.
Right.
So think of it that way. So this is how you repot a plant. It's just like a sandwich. You put in a little dirt, then you put in the...
Unless the soil is infected.
Oh, right, of course. If the soil is infected, or if the soil is overwatered, right, you need all new soil.
Yeah.
And the plant will adapt because you'll be saving its life at that point. If that's an evacuation, that's not an upgrade, right? So
Running away from that area.
Exactly. And then you just put a little water to settle the soil so that, you want it to run out of the bottom. And this is just gonna come out of this.
What do you
Sorry,
sit,
Candace.
what do you sit your brown girl on top of?
I just sit it on the table. When I water my plants, I always take them to the sink or to the tub, so I don't really care about excess water. But if you don't want to do that, then you probably would need some kind of tray or something to catch it. But I like the decorative aspect that a tray can't provide me, so I take it and I put it back. And then you want to also clean your leaves. So this is also part of the solar power that we were talking about. Yeah, these are microfiber gloves. So they're like cleaning gloves. You can like clean a mirror or whatever you clean. I use them for my plants. And it's important to clean off the leaves because they get dusty. They just got a little dirty when I just repotted it, right? And if you get a layer of film or dust or dirt on your plant, they're not getting the maximum amount of sunlight, right? It's like a sunscreen over your plant. So even if it's in the window, if it's covered in dust, it's not getting the sunlight that it could be getting. You know what I mean? So it's important to dust your plants, keep them clean. So yeah, I meant to give that example when we were talking about sunlight, but this was a prime example to do it with because it got a little dirty. So that's how you repot a plant. And look, I can make some more, right? Miss Brenda, you were asking about this plant. What kind of plant is that? I didn't say I wanted that. Now you got another one. Here you go. Can you pass this to Miss Brenda, please?
Well, let's let it drain.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I have a piece of paper if you want to sit it on top.
Oh, no, I got some paper. I got some paper towels.
Okay. Sorry, I'm making a mess. This is a messy class. We got black everywhere. And I like playing in the dirt. This is my dopamine. I don't really get, it doesn't always process it. You're making a mess. My bad. So, yeah. So look at this. So how many plants did we make out of this one plant?
3.
Miss Dawn, I want you to have this.
Oh gosh, I have a brown thumb. I just killed everything. My kids
This is
are
your
on my
chance
legs.
to bring one to life.
Well, that's why you're here.
Yes. All I do is kill plants. I buy flowers, I put them on the kitchen table, and I wait till those, I let those,
Now you got another one. So, instead of, how many plants did we just get out of that one?
Thank you so much.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Right? So never fear when the math ain't mathing. You make it math. Right?
Oh, thank you.
So we talked about propagation. If you can't cut off a plant because they all can't be propagated that way, you may even hurt it that way. You can always separate the plants by dividing it in the soil like we just did. All the plants can be done that way. Yes, ma'am.
Direct sunlight, so 12 feet away again?
12 feet from a window.
Okay.
Within 12 feet of a window.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk about plant food and fertilizer. So, like I said before, plants are governed by the seasons. So, in mid-fall, I would say starting around next week, from mid-fall to early spring, plants go dormant. They will require less water. They won't be as vibrant. You might lose some leaves. This is all normal behavior for a plant because it's sleeping, right? And like a baby, you don't wake up a baby to feed it. You don't wake up a baby to change it, right? So repotting and plant food should not be done during this window of time. Late fall to early spring, no fertilizer whatsoever, because the sleeping is not working at its full capacity. You won't be able to metabolize it properly, and you can kill it. So it's important not to do that. These plants are going to need less water because they're sleeping. You can kill it if you know, just by overwatering. So you can kill it anytime by overwatering, but if it's asleep, it's really easy to do. So please stay on top of checking the soil. Get dirty. Get dirty. It's better than killing your plants. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
have a question about what you just said about repotting in the fall. So I have a monstera, like a baby monstera that I just realized it's probably in a too big of a pot. So now that it's fall, should I go ahead and hurry up and repot it now in a smaller pot, or wait till the spring?
I think you should do it now.
Okay.
I think you should do it now because it's going to be too easy to overwater it in that pot. The longer it stays in that pot, it's going to be too, you know, it's too vulnerable. And it's not too late to repot. We can still repot, but you should absolutely stop fertilizing right now. And also a quick note about fertilizers. They have tons of fertilizers in the stores, Miracle Grow and all of those. I don't recommend any of those, simply because they are made by the same companies that produce pesticides. And pesticides, we don't know the cause of cancer, but we know that pesticides is a link, you know? And I think that is a bad idea to bring that into your houseplant that's purifying your air and pumping out your oxygen. You know, you're trying to get rid of the toxins, now you're introducing more. So there's natural ways of fertilizing plants. You can take banana peels. Eat your banana, take the peel and put it in some water. Put it in a jar or a cup full of water, cover it with water, set it aside for 24 hours, 48 hours, however long. You can do it until it turns brown. Take that water that those peels were soaking in and water the plant with that water. And now you fertilize your plant. It's free, it's easy, it's not toxic to anyone, right? And it stimulates, again, that tropical environment that the plants are native to. When you think about a jungle floor, when you think about a rainforest floor, those organic materials that fall from the trees, bananas, leaves, and compost to make the soil, that's the same kind of material that's coming from the banana peel, right? It's potassium and nitrogen, and without any other chemical, just naturally occurring. And it's gonna feel familiar. It's like soul food for the plant. You know, it's like your mom's cooking, right? That's how it's gonna, you know, metabolize that banana water. Another way is using coffee that's been brewed, no sugar, no milk in it, obviously. That's pure nitrogen. Nitrogen is like biotin for our hair. Biotin makes human hair grow faster. Nitrogen makes plants grow faster. So again, this is not about bigger and faster, it's about slowing down. And those, you know, chemical fertilizers, that's what they promise you. And you know, we are here to unplug. We're here to affirm ourselves and to get grounded and to get one with the earth and try to forget about celebrity gossip and things like that. So we don't really care about, we're not going to sacrifice our health or the health of the plant so that we can get some faster, bigger blooms, right? So you don't need that.
I may have missed it. How often should I water these?
Okay, so you don't want to ever water anything on a schedule, right? You want to check the soil before you water any plant, because the difference in the climate of the room is going to dictate how much it needs water, and that won't be the same for every room. It won't be the same for every house, right? So you check the soil down to your second digit, and if it sticks, it doesn't need water. If it's moist, it doesn't need water. If it crumbles, then this is also a water plant. So I don't really have a good example, but it's a little dry at the bottom. If it crumbles, then you can go ahead and water it. So that's your indicator. So check the soil weekly, but not water it weekly. And then when you water it, make sure it's water to the point where the water is flowing out of the bottom. So think of it as expelling water. You drink a bottle of water, what would your life be like if you couldn't use the bathroom afterwards? Same thing is happening in a plant. It's very painful and it can cause you health problems. It could kill a plant. So that's how you have to think about it. I don't know if I missed anything.
I have a question.
Sure.
So with the banana water, you said only use like a cup of water? Do you add more water to that so you can do more plants? Is that just enough for one?
That's enough. So yeah, it depends on the number of peels that you put in there and how much water. So if you have a jar this big, that can probably water about 4 plants. So you want to get like a cup of that banana water per plant.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
so like each banana add like about a cup of water.
Mhm.
Yeah, like, okay.
Yeah.
So you said like sit overnight?
Yeah, let it sit overnight or longer.
Okay.
What about staking plants, like that one I was telling you about? It's a,
Mhm.
you know, it's a rather thick stem, but it got so tall now that it's just kind of laying
Yeah, staking
down.
plants is good. That's like a cane for a plant. So yeah,
I mean,
that will help it to grow
what
up right.
What it'll do naturally, is that supposed to happen?
Well, in nature, it would actually lean up against a tree. The nearby tree, it will stake itself. So yeah, you're just simulating what it would naturally do. So there's no harm in that at all. It's just when you stake it, steer clear of the roots. Try not to like cut any roots off when you sticking that stick in there. But other than that, it's not harmful at all. Mm-hmm.
So when I water my plants, should the water come out every time I water it? So water should be coming out the bottom every time I water my plants.
Yes, unless you're doing the sip example where you have a plant that doesn't have drainage holes. If you have the drainage holes, take full advantage of having drainage holes and water it to the point where it's expelling water.
Okay.
If it doesn't have drainage holes, then you want to give it just a little bit of water. Just a sip. Any other questions? So, it's believed by a lot of different religions that everything that is ailing us as humans, there's a cure for it in the earth already. It just hasn't been discovered yet. A cure for cancer, a cure for AIDS, all of these things, there's a cure already here. And we know that cure, when it is found, is going to be a plant. So that's another point of reverence, to really think about what it is that you have at home and why we should respect them. As not inanimate objects, but something that's here to save us from our ailments and to affirm us every single day and to lift our spirits, giving us dopamine, purifying our air, and keeping us healthy, right? Giving us all of our vaccines and drugs. So at this time, I'm going to have my lovely son, Isam. My son is here to help out his mama. I'm going to have him pass around and give everybody a plant. The thing about this, I have on each of these a label, and I want you to name your plant, something that you're working on about yourself. But the objective is it can't be anything about your finances, your love life, or your children, just about yourself. Because like there's a cure in the earth for every ailment, the cure for whatever is ailing you is in you. So whatever you want to work on, that's what your plant's name is going to be. Okay? And my son is going to help. My son, I'm very proud of you, Isam. I just want you to know that. And I'm telling the world that my son he came home from the university just to help me. And I just think that that's so sweet. So, thank you. So Isam's going to give you guys a plant. And thank you. That has been Home Oniship Live. Yay. Thank you. All right. Did you guys have any other questions before we clean up? Okay. And if you want to buy anything, let me know. We got our stuff set up outside. All right. I'm going to end the live. Nobody's watching, you guys. Okay. Oh, some people watching. What do I do? Press the X?